Well, there is a new health care bill on the table, and President Trump is taking heat for his handling of a phone call with the widow of a fallen soldier. Pepperdine University Professor Michael Shires joins us now for some insight. Good morning.
Good morning.
Okay, so a lot has been said this week about the president, making this phone call. He was on the defensive this week after the condolence phone call to that wife of the Green Beret killed was released, and the White House says it's wrong to make a political stand regarding fallen soldiers. But what could the president have actually done better in this situation?
Well, I mean, the president reached out to the families of the 4 fallen soldiers, and that reflects his commitment to the military and his passion for supporting our fallen warriors. So in some ways, one of the things you probably could have done was not respond directly to the allegations. I think General Kelley gave an amazing press conference, and if you haven't seen it, you should go watch it to get sort of the full response to it, because, I mean, he is a Gold Star father, and I mean, it really speaks to the situation.
Now, part of what came about was Congresswoman Frederica Wilson, who, came out and talked about it. Do you think that she was out of bounds by bringing up what was said on the call?
Well, I think we, especially those who are opposed to President Trump, really see things through a lens that says he can do no right. I mean, the act of calling these people to express the gratitude of the nation and their condolences to these families, I think, is an incredibly compassionate act. For her to kind of raise this in this context, I think probably does go beyond the boundaries of what most of us would consider acceptable.
Okay, we want to switch gears a little bit. There was a new bipartisan health care bill that was introduced this week. And first, the president said that he liked the bill. Now he says he doesn't. Is there any chance this bill will actually pass?
Well, first, let me just say, I'm really excited that something bipartisan has come into Congress. I mean, we haven't seen this yet. And so I'm really excited by that. Negotiations, there's very little that's private with this president, whether he tweets it or whether somebody leaks it. So the negotiating process and how this bill might take shape, whether they can come to an agreement that gets enough votes to get it through the Senate, and that's our stumbling block, and through the House if it has too many compromises, remains to be seen. But the fact that people in the two parties are actually talking is a huge step of progress here.
It sure is. It sure is. So, past presidents from both parties took swings at the president this week without actually using his name. And, most presidents shy away from criticizing the current office holder. President Bush's comments were particularly stinging, coming from a member of Mr. Trump's party. What effect do you think that this is actually going to have?
Well, I mean, everything about this presidency is unprecedented. The fact that President Obama, I mean, people kind of expected as the strongest voice for the Democratic Party, he would start saying some things. President Bush is a little bit of a surprise, but will it have an impact? I mean, I think Donald Trump sees himself as shaking up the establishment, and these are certainly two establishment presidents. So I think it's going to sort of reinforce what he wants his agenda, and I think it's going to embolden some of his opponents. But I don't really see a big change in the balance of power as a result.
Okay, and the stock market topped 23,000 this week. How much credit can President Trump take for the growth?
I think as much as any other president. President Obama took credit for the recovery from the financial collapse. I mean, the reality is that he has created a new optimism in the business environment about bringing jobs on shore. And so I think there is an element to it, but there's also an element to the fact that, we are having a real conversation about tax reform, and we're talking about new leadership in the Federal Reserve. I think all of those the markets are responding very favorably to.
Always so much to talk about. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us this morning. We certainly appreciate your insight.